Hey, what's up? It's Kit. Time for another video. Today, I'm going to show you a very good, kind of easy jig fly to tie. And I'm going to show you the materials first, okay? And tools. So you need a pair of scissors, really sharp ones. Fly tying thread, bobbin, some Sharpies. So I don't know if I'm going to use the Sharpies, but it depends. We'll see. Stick on ice. UV resin, super glue, and craft fur. All right, so we're gonna be using white craft fur. So this is mine, and also some crystal flash. So the very first step, this jig, actually, before we proceed, this is an owner jig. I chose this because there are two tying points. Very, very good, since you would be able to kind of alter the characteristic of how the jig swims. Does so, but it doesn't have to be this. I just chose this because I have a lot of these, and they're they're quite good. So first is we put a little bump there. All right. Now also, there used to be a barb here made of mono, and I took that off. All right, so this is going to be a fly for just about anything that eats fish, minnows particularly, and this is also the reason why we're choosing to tie it in white. Okay, so we'll first build the tail, and we'll make it a bit long. Okay, so I have my material here. Now, if you are not a fly fisherman, you would know that when you're dealing with stuff like natural fur, when you cut natural materials like bucktail or bucktail, there's under fur. All right, so once we have the clump that we need, and you take a bunch, okay, but not too thick. Remember, this is ultralight fishing, so the more material that you're actually putting on this, the more it's going to sink slow. So if you're fishing in streams for trout or panfish, that might be something that you want to do, so that you could just cast out and let it drift with the current. But when you're fishing saltwater, it might be a disadvantage. Especially when you're fishing deep. So you can alter the sink rate of this jig fly by tying it sparse or tying it thick. All right, so 1.5. Okay, so that's there. Put it on. First, you do just 2 loose wraps, and then you tighten, and that pretty much keeps it in place, and it'll stop it from turning. That's okay. Then secure. So there's the bump is there. We secure towards the bump so that it doesn't move. We'll fix this later, but for now I want to just divide it in 2 and then slide out like that. Okay. And then you cut the excess. Tie forward a little bit. At this point, what you want to do is add a drop of super glue, just so these things become bomb proof. Just a tiny dab. That's enough. That's it. Okay, now we take 1 crystal flash, just 1. Okay, and my piece here is actually kind of long, but what you want is just 1, literally 1. Okay, cut it to length, because you don't want too much flash in this particular fly. So what I do is just tie a length, okay, We'll do your side first so it's easier. Okay, so I just put one right there, and then as long as the tail, that's it. Secure it with a couple of wraps. Okay, turn, take the other end and put it across to the side as well. Okay, tie, cut off the excess. And you want this to be just subtle. You don't want it to be screaming. So that's why you tie it like that. Just one. And you'll see later. Okay. So you have that with a bit of flash. You move a bit forward, and then comes the bit that's a tiny bit complicated. Now this fly, what you want is for it to be kind of flat on the side. You don't want it to be round. So there's a trick to that when you're tying. So I'm just taking the tiny short bits up front or at the back, and then what I do is actually kind of taper this. Just pull on the ends until they're uneven, like so. Okay. Now, right there, okay. One loose wrap, two loose wraps, pull down. And as you can see, we've actually kind of advanced a little bit there, and that's what you want. Okay, put this here. Divide it. Don't tie that off yet. You flip your fly over. Okay. And then you take another piece of crystal flash. Okay. Just cut a short length. Okay. That like that. Measure it again. This time just a tad shorter. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then it stays. To the far side. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then cut it just short of your first two. Okay, so that's basically what you want, is just each piece of crystal flash is shorter than the last one. Okay, so we're tying that off. Then you take another clump of fur or craft fur. Ideally, your quantity would be the same. Okay. Now the trick here is that this should be shorter than your top. Okay, so the top is actually almost towards the tail, and this one we're gonna cut, or we're gonna put shorter, about 1/4 of an inch shorter, like that. Okay. Now what you want is, after that, what you do is actually fold all of this back. The ones that you tied, fold all the way to the back. Go forward, tie at the tips, at the very tip. Okay, and then just grab like that, and then you can go forward. So what you've done is basically make that a bit more tapered, like so. Okay, and your crystal flash is underneath. Ideally, you'll have a bit of space from the jig head and the craft fur. That's where I'm tying right now. So there's a space there, just a tad of space. And what happens here is that gap, that little gap. Okay, here's a trick. Use your needle for your or your scissors for your knot, so it doesn't twist when you have twist on your in your thread. All right, so it's a bit of fluff. It looks like a fluff ball for now, but I promise you it'll look really good. All right, so I have a steel wire brush here. Let me use my hands so that you guys could see how I form it. So just like that. The very first thing you do is bunch them up like so. You take your scissors, and instead of actually cutting the shape, what you want to do is make it stand like that. I'm just taking my trash bin here. Okay, it stand like that, and then cut. Top taper looks okay, just a touch up here. Okay, there we go. So that actually looks really good. Put it back on the vise like that, and now comes the fun part. Hold it back like that. Okay, and then take your UV glue, squeeze some in the fur like that. Okay, take your eye, position it just at the front. Okay, now that you have that, pull everything back and then zap it. Okay, so your eye is fixed. Do the other one, position it like that. Okay, so make it as even as you can, like so. Okay, pull this hair back. Okay, this, zap it. That eye is not coming undone. And then put more in the eye. Okay, like so, and around. It's pretty much gonna fuse the eye, the fur, and the head, just like that. There we go. So you have something that looks really good with a little bit of trimming, and it's also very soft. So what happens here is that when it actually swims in the water, the movement is gonna be very, very nice. All right, so very, very simple, very effective actually. Again, freshwater, saltwater, bass, trout, panfish. When you're fishing from shore, it's very, very easy. Might have taken a bit longer because I'm explaining things, but I used to tie a lot of these and fish them off of ultralight spinning, and obviously this is heavy enough for BFS, and Really, really effective. The good thing about this is that you don't have to actually spend. They don't rip off like soft plastics. Have a totally unique action, and it's a very good addition to any ultralight or BFS arsenal. All right, so hope you learned something. Hope you'll try actually doing this because it's pretty cool. Um, that's it for now. We're adding more of these patterns on a Jig Fly only um, playlist. So check that out pretty soon. Again, if you liked what you saw, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't yet, consider subscribing so you won't miss out on any of these and the other fun stuff. And class is missed. I'll see you in the next one.